we were like established singing stars because like, I mean, the girls were like screaming and crying and bawling. We didn't even like sing yet.
Two young ladies allowed their egos to get in the way and were kind of going through it about a guy.
Nate wasn't even there, so I'm like, why are we splitting? And he getting his share, and I'm gonna get the same thing as him, and he ain't even here. That didn't make sense to me. And so they was like...
And I can't believe she even fixed her mouth to even ask us about some splits.
What?
Kandi and Adina Howard just revealed Boyz II Men's darkest secret, and what they said might change the way you see the group forever. We're talking betrayal, manipulation, careers ruined in silence, and the kind of power plays that sound eerily similar to what's now being exposed about Diddy.
The whole criminal case against Sean Combs starts with a civil case brought by his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura.
When women like Kandi and Adina speak up decades later, it's not just to settle scores, it's because the truth they were forced to swallow back then is finally safe to say out loud.
They said, we just thought about it, and
we decided we ain't giving her the 25% on the other song. She can only get 10 on that, but we still gonna keep the 25% on Good Guy.
And once you hear everything that really went down behind the scenes, with Brandy, with Michael McCary, and with executives pulling strings, you'll realize Boyz II Men weren't just hiding drama. They were hiding damage, and for the first time, it's all coming out. Back in the 90s, Boyz II Men dominated the charts, and Kandi was on her way to becoming one of the biggest songwriters in the industry. But what should have been a legendary collaboration between them turned into a feud that lasted decades. According to Kandi, working with Boyz II Men was one of the worst experiences of her career. Prior to this, Kandi Burruss always thought she had a solid relationship with Boyz II Men members Wanya and Sean Stockman. They had hung out before, and she considered them real cool people. So when the opportunity came to work with them in the studio, she was hyped.
I thought that I had been cool with Wanya and Sean prior to working with them. We had hung out before, and I thought they was, you know, real cool people or whatever. So I was really looking forward to working with them in the studio. This was years ago, mind you. This was like in 2000 or something like that. I was super excited about working with Boyz II Men. At the time, they had set it up for Shakespeare and I to do 2 songs with Boyz II Men.
At the time, Kandi was already a well-known songwriter, fresh off her success with TLC's No Scrubs and Destiny's Child's Bills, Bills, Bills. She wasn't just another songwriter, they were bringing in someone who knew how to craft a hit. But before the boys even stepped into the studio that day, Kandi had already laid down most of the song they were about to work on, called Good Guy.
So I was pretty much done. I think I had wrote like the verse, the B section, and the hook was already done before they even got there. That's the majority of the song for people who don't really know. It's like once you get to the second verse, all you do is changing lyrics. The melody is already there.
So basically, the heavy lifting was already done. But when Boyz II Men arrived, things started to shift in a direction she wasn't expecting. At first, it seemed like a regular studio session. They started working on the second verse, something Kandi described as just tweaking the lyrics rather than creating something brand new.
So when they first got there, everything was all good. I believe Wanya was like, hey, you want us to help you finish the song. Typically, if I'm working with a group or an artist and they want to collaborate or whatever, I'm more than open because they're the artist. So I was like, yeah, if you want to help, I mean, I'm almost done, but that's cool, whatever. So they did help finish with the lyrics on the second verse.
But apparently, Wanya and Sean saw things a little differently. When it came time to discuss the splits, meaning how the song credits and royalties would be divided, tension started brewing.
I said, hey guys, how do you normally do your splits?
There is no standard in how to decide what percentage of a song someone gets.
And so instantly, attitude shifted. And so they was like,
Splits? What you mean, how we do our splits?
And I was like, well, I was just wondering, how you do, your splits. Like, cause everybody kind of like have a different way of doing it or whatever.
That's when Wanya spoke up. Instead of splitting things based on contribution, he wanted to divide everything equally. Kandi was confused. She had done most of the work before they even walked in. Why would the splits be 4 ways? Kandi wasn't feeling that at all, and she let them know.
I was like, I that ain't gonna really work on that song for me to just only take 10%. Like, that don't make sense. So then they were like, well, you know, we always do split. And then mind you, on top of that, Nate wasn't even there. So I'm like, why are we splitting? And he getting his share and I'm gonna get the same thing as him and he ain't even here. That didn't make sense to me.
At this point, the energy in the room completely changed. What started as a friendly collaboration suddenly turned into an argument. They finally agreed on giving her 25% of the earnings, but later went behind her back to renegotiate with her manager.
They said, we just thought about it and
We decided we ain't giving her the 25% on the other song. She can only get 10 on that, but we still gonna keep the 25% on Good Guy.
And now, mind you, my manager's standing right in front of me, so I can hear their voices and hear what they saying and how they saying it. So I was like, no, that's not gonna work. They not just gonna chump me off like that. Like, no.
And just like that, a working relationship that seemed promising turned into straight-up bad blood. Years later, Wanya Morris spoke about this situation in an interview. And let's just say, his version sounded very different from Kandi's. He painted her as difficult to work with and claimed she had a bad attitude.
So we sat there, we was like, splits? First of all, we didn't even finish singing the song yet. We didn't finish writing the song yet. Why would we talk about splits? I mean, well, because I came up with the hook. And I'm like, and the hook is the major part of the song. We was like, I don't care what the hook is the main. We're like literally, like we've been in the game long enough to say, hold on a second.
Wanya made it sound like Kandi was being difficult. But let's be real. Knowing your worth in the industry isn't a crime. And if Kandi was already an established songwriter, why wouldn't she make sure she was getting her fair share? But Wanya clearly wasn't feeling that. He went on about how he and his team were from the old school where everything was split evenly, regardless of who wrote what.
We from the, hey, you write a lyric, I write a lyric, you know, if you don't write the full, you know what I'm saying? This is really about, you know, just building this whole thing together. And she started talking about splits. So we sat there, we was like, splits?
The issue is, that's not how modern songwriting works anymore. The hook, the part Kandi wrote, is often the most memorable and profitable part of the song. So was she wrong for bringing it up? Or was Wanya just salty that she wanted a fair deal? Now, here's where Wanya really started talking slick. After explaining the dispute, he acted like it was no big deal. But then, he hit Kandi where it hurts.
She hasn't worked since, right? Like, music-wise? She's just been doing like reunions with Escape.
That one sentence alone had the internet buzzing because, let's be real, Kandi has been booked and busy. She might not be writing hit songs for TLC anymore, but she's been thriving in reality TV, business, and even Broadway. But according to Wanya, that doesn't count.
It's been a dormant season, and it's a dormant season for a lot of artists of that time because music has changed, and that's just what it is. But, you know.
At this point, Wanya wasn't even pretending to be neutral anymore. He basically implied that Kandi fell off musically and is only relevant because of TV and Escape reunions. And if that wasn't enough, he took it even further by questioning her actual talent.
She can't get on here and sing better than Jana Brown. She can't get on here and sing better than Leah Monty. She can't get on here and sing better than Ex Bria, Songbird Eye. She can't do that.
It's one thing to criticize someone's work ethic, but now he's saying Kandi doesn't even have the vocal talent to compare to other singers. And let's not forget, Kandi has a Grammy. Wanya might be a legendary vocalist, but does that mean he gets to dismiss her entire career like this? The funny part is, Wanya tried to clean it up by saying he has nothing bad to say about Kandi. But by then, the damage was already done. You can't question someone's talent, their career, and their relevance, then turn around and say, no hard feelings. That's like saying, no offense, before saying something offensive. So the real question is, was Wanya just telling his truth? Or was this low-key bitterness over an old disagreement? Anyway, while Kandi Burruss has been vocal about her past disagreements with Boyz II Men, she isn't the only industry professional who has shared concerns about working with the group. Acclaimed producer Dallas Austin, who has collaborated with some of the biggest names in music, including TLC, Madonna, and Michael Jackson, also had his own complicated history with the R&B group. In a candid interview with Vlad TV, Austin recounted how his experience with Boyz II Men drastically changed between their first and second albums. Initially, Austin had a great working relationship with the group. He helped shape their sound and was a key part of their early success. However, by the time they were recording their second album, he noticed a major shift in their attitudes. What started as a smooth collaboration turned into a difficult working environment. According to Austin, the group's newfound success seemed to change the way they carried themselves in the studio, and he quickly became disillusioned with them.
I just noticed that on the second Boyz II Men album, you only produced one song. Was there a reason why you didn't continue to stick with them after having so much success on the first one?
Yeah, it was actually. I didn't like them after that.
Austin explained that one of the first red flags he noticed was how Boyz II Men began to approach their career differently. He recalled a specific instance in the studio when the members seemed more concerned with flaunting their success than focusing on their music. Instead of being excited about their work, they were preoccupied with material possessions and their status in the industry.
I remember I was sitting in the studio and they were going, man, you know, I can't finish counting the diamonds in my Rolex right now. And I was sitting there looking, I'm going, what are they talking about? And then the award show comes on and they go, oh, we got to let somebody win this year. Good thing we're not there. And I'm like, these guys are assholes.
This attitude was a stark contrast to the humble and hardworking group he had worked with on their first album. It became clear to Austin that fame had affected their dynamic, making collaboration more difficult. Austin felt that this shift in mindset was detrimental to their growth as artists. He believed that remaining grounded and continuing to respect the collaborative process was essential to maintaining longevity in the music industry. As the group's success grew, they also wanted more control over their own music. Austin revealed that at one point, Boyz II Men expressed a desire to co-produce their second album, rather than working primarily with established producers like himself. When asked whether he would be open to working alongside them as co-producers, Austin declined. He felt that their debut album had been successful because of the strong team behind it, and he didn't see a reason to change that formula.
No way. Not interested. They do the first one with me, why should they do this one with me? You know, like.
Austin explained that while he respected their ambition, he believed that every project should have the best professionals working on it. He felt that if Boyz II Men wanted to experiment with production, they should do so on other artists' work first, rather than on their own main projects. Despite this disagreement, Austin still contributed to the album, producing songs like Thank You. However, he admitted that by the time they finished working together, the experience had been so frustrating that he didn't want to continue collaborating with them in the future.
I did some vibing with them, and even by the time we got through with Thank You, I was like ready to shoot everybody. It was just ridiculous how drastic of an ego change it was.
One of the most shocking stories Austin shared involved legendary producer and songwriter Babyface. At the time, Babyface had already worked with Boyz II Men on End of the Road, which became one of their biggest hits. Given their previous success together, Babyface returned to the studio to present them with another song, I'll Make Love to You. According to Austin, Babyface played the track for the group in the studio, singing the entire song to demonstrate how it should sound. Instead of being excited about the opportunity to work with him again, Boyz II Men reportedly dismissed the song outright.
After they finished, they go, Boyz II Men looks at him and goes, see, that's what we talking about. That's what we do. We don't need you. This is horrible.
Austin was stunned by their reaction, as Babyface was one of the most respected hitmakers in the industry at the time. The song was ultimately recorded despite their initial hesitation, and it went on to become one of Boyz II Men's biggest hits, proving just how out of touch their judgment may have been in that moment. But while their career was soaring, something else was happening behind the scenes. If you grew up listening to Boyz II Men in the 90s, you probably remember them as a four-man group with smooth harmonies and soulful ballads. But if you've seen them perform in recent years, you might have noticed something different. There are only 3 of them now. Michael McCary, the deep-voiced bass singer, left the group in 2003. At first, there wasn't much explanation. and fans were left wondering what happened. Over time, the truth started to come out, and it turns out his departure was more painful and complicated than most people realized. For years, Michael kept quiet about why he left Boyz II Men. The other three members, Nathan Morris, Wanya Morris, and Sean Stockman, continued on without him, and people assumed he just wanted to go solo, or that there were disagreements within the group. But in 2016, Michael finally revealed the truth. He had been battling multiple sclerosis, MS, in secret for years. MS is a disease that affects the brain and spinal cord, causing chronic pain, muscle weakness, and other serious health problems. Michael said he first started noticing symptoms in his early 20s. At first, it was just back spasms, but over time, they got worse. He didn't tell his bandmates right away because he didn't want to slow the group down or make them feel like they had to take care of him. As the years went on, Michael's condition got harder to ignore. The constant touring, performing, and long hours took a toll on his body. Instead of getting better, the pain became worse, making it difficult for him to keep up. Eventually, it got to the point where he had to step back. In 2003, he officially left Boyz II Men. But the way it happened wasn't as smooth as people might think. Michael later said that instead of supporting him through his illness, the other members of the group turned their backs on him. In an emotional interview, he said he felt abandoned and betrayed by the guys he considered his brothers. If I had to sum up what I got from my brothers in Boyz II Men, I would have to say betrayal, a broken bond, Michael admitted. On the other hand, the remaining members of the group have a different story. They say Michael simply stopped showing up and that they had no choice but to move on without him. One of the problems was he had a back issue. Wanya Morris explained in an interview. It could have been fixed. Instead, he stopped coming to work and we had to move forward without him. And he wasn't happy about that. There are always two sides to a story. And in this case, it seems like both Michael and the other group members felt hurt by how everything played out. From Michael's point of view, he was struggling with a serious illness and needed support, but instead, he felt pushed out. From the group's perspective, they had a career to maintain and couldn't just stop everything because Michael was missing rehearsals and performances. Some fans also believe there may have been other issues behind the scenes. The early 2000s were a tough time for Boyz II Men. Their popularity had started to fade, and the music industry was changing. R&B groups weren't as dominant as they used to be, and the group wasn't selling as many records as before. It's possible that on top of Michael's health problems, there was already tension about the direction of the group, and his departure just made things worse. For years after Michael left, the group didn't say much about him. They continued making music and touring as a trio, but there was always a sense that something was missing.
We actually tried to make him a part of the 20th anniversary album, but we couldn't really come to a mutual agreement on what we needed to do.
In 2014, Michael actually reunited with Boyz II Men for a one-time gig, which gave fans hope that they might work things out, but it didn't last. By 2016, Michael admitted that he still had a lot of anger and resentment toward his former bandmates. I want to get over the hurt and abandonment that I feel from the group that I've been with for so long and gave my life to, he said. I want to be able to go in a room with them and not feel like I want to choke them. It was clear that even after more than a decade, the wounds hadn't fully healed. When it comes to Boyz II Men's legacy, their talent isn't in question, but their personal lives? That's where things get murky. One of the most disturbing rumors linked to the group involves Brandy, who was only 16 when she started working closely with them. According to Wanya, Brandy's mother reached out to him because Brandy was a huge fan of his. At first, their relationship was just professional. Wanya helped mentor Brandy and introduced her to key figures in the music industry. He even played a role in helping her land Moesha, which became a major hit. But their relationship soon turned personal, and that's where things got messy. Wanya insists that they only started dating after Brandy turned 18, but many fans aren't convinced. The fact that they were already spending so much time together before she was of age raised a lot of eyebrows. In later interviews, Wanya admitted that they had formed a deep connection long before they were officially together.
So Brandy and I were really, really close. Once she turned of age, we had been hanging around each other so much. We've been hanging around each other so much that there became to be some sort of connection, an intimate connection. We actually fell in love.
The two dated quietly, but when Brandy was 17, something odd happened. She went to prom with Kobe Bryant. This led to confusion about her relationship with Wanya. If they were together, why did she go to prom with Kobe? Wanya later claimed that he and his mother actually helped set up the date between Brandy and Kobe, despite him and Brandy already being romantically involved. This timeline only made things look worse. People started questioning how long Wanya and Brandy had really been involved, and whether he had been dating her before she was legally an adult. The age gap might not seem huge now, but back then, a 22-year-old dating a 16-year-old was highly controversial. By 1998, Brandy and Wanya had broken up, and Brandy later hinted that it was a painful experience. In a 2012 interview, she admitted that her first heartbreak was a Boyz II Men member, but she never named Wanya directly. Fans, however, knew exactly who she was talking about. If Wanya and Brandy's relationship wasn't messy enough, things got even crazier when Adina Howard entered the picture. Adina Howard was an R&B singer, best known for her sexually charged persona and hits like Freak Like Me. She was rising in the industry at the same time as Brandy, but the two couldn't have been more different. Brandy was marketed as the sweet, innocent girl next door, while Adina was outspoken and unapologetically bold. According to Adina, she and Wanya started dating while he was still in a relationship with Brandy. This created major tension between the two women, and their drama didn't stay behind closed doors. In a 2019 episode of Unsung, Adina revealed that the tension between her and Brandy caused serious problems in the industry. Adina admitted that her label warned her to stay away from Wanya, but she ignored the advice. Then, she made things worse by discussing the situation on Wendy Williams' radio show. She didn't just talk about her relationship with Wanya, she also threw shade at Brandy and Sylvia Rhone, the powerful executive at Atlantic Records. Sylvia Rhone wasn't someone to mess with, and she didn't appreciate Adina running her mouth. According to Adina, Sylvia was furious when she heard the interview. Within days, she shut down Adina's entire career.
I said something very inappropriate about the head of the label, and she pulled up the emergency brake, shut everything down.
It was a shocking moment in R&B history. While Wanya moved on with his life, Adina's career never fully recovered. Some fans believe this scandal directly inspired Brandy and Monica's hit song, The Boy Is Mine. While Brandy and Monica have never confirmed it, the timeline fits perfectly, and the song's lyrics about two women fighting over the same man seem eerily similar to what happened. After breaking up with Brandy and moving past the Adina Howard scandal, Wanya continued his career with Boyz II Men. While the group's popularity declined from their 90s peak, they've continued to tour and make music as a trio, even after Michael McCary's departure. Wanya has also had a busy personal life. He married Tracy Nash in 2002, and they had 6 children together, including 4 sons who formed an R&B boy band called Wanmore. However, in 2019, Wanya married another woman named Amber Ray, without legally divorcing Tracy. Yes, you heard that right. Wanya was married to 2 women at the same time. While it's unclear how that situation played out legally, it definitely added another layer to his history of complicated relationships. In any case, looking back at everything, from Kandi Burruss's fallout to Dallas Austin's disillusionment, from Michael McCary's painful exit to Wanya's complicated relationships with Brandy and Adina Howard, it's hard not to see a pattern. What started as individual conflicts now feels like a deeper, more systemic issue, an issue rooted in control, ego, and unchecked power. It wasn't just about creative disagreements or romantic drama. It was about manipulation, career sabotage, and silencing people who didn't go along with the plan. And when you line it all up, The comparisons to someone like Sean Diddy Combs become impossible to ignore. Because just like Boyz II Men, Diddy was at the top of his game during the same era. He had influence, access, and control over people's futures. And just like the stories we heard about Wanya and Brandy, or Adina Howard getting blackballed after crossing the wrong people, Diddy too has been accused of using his status to control, manipulate, and ultimately damage the lives of those around him. The grooming allegations, the emotional abuse, the promises made and broken. It's the same playbook, just on a different scale. And while Boyz II Men were once seen as the clean-cut kings of R&B, these behind-the-scenes stories reveal a much messier truth. Just like Diddy's glossy empire is now being pulled apart by court filings, testimony, and voices that were once silenced. Maybe this isn't about one group or one mogul. Maybe it's about an industry that let this behavior slide for decades. An industry where image mattered more than integrity, where victims were told to stay quiet or lose everything, and where powerful men moved through careers untouched until now. Because once you hear these stories side by side, you start to realize they're not just similar, they're connected. And maybe the reckoning that's happening now, it's not coming too soon. It's coming way too late. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.